by the United States. But we shouldn't be fooled. This was the Egyptian workers that brought this down. The Egyptian workers turned out the Tahrir Square. The Egyptian workers took over their plants. The Egyptian workers shut down the canals that forced the wealthy in Egypt and their backers in Washington and other capitals in Europe to force this dictator out. Now today, we workers in the United States and right here in New Jersey, we need to get our act together, right? And this is what this conference is about coming together to fight for what we want, what we need, jobs for all, legalization for all, right? And we can take another lesson from the workers in Egypt. When their National Democratic Party, right, led by Hosni Mubarak, said, hold on, calm down, wait, in September I will step down and then we'll take care of things. Did they accept that? No. No, they said they fought for what they want. Likewise, in our country, our National Democratic Party and our National Republican Party tell us what we can do, what's acceptable. They don't think legalization for all, jobs for all, is acceptable. But like in Egypt, we're not listening to these players. We're going to fight for what we want. And we have today a panel that's going to be explaining about what is jobs for all, what is legalization for all. And our first panel is going to be focused on the jobs for all component, right? Then we're going to have a break. We've got some great performers, working class musicians are going to perform, and then in the afternoon we will have another panel discussing, elaborating on legalization for all. Okay? Before I introduce our speakers, I just want to let everyone know we have simultaneous translation. So if you're not, if you don't understand both Spanish and English, we have Maria de Silva there in the second row is distributing the headphones. So we'll have that translation. Our first panelists will be speaking in English, so you won't need that time. Our Spanish speakers will. And then following their presentations, we're going to have questions. We're going to have comments. We're going to open it up for the audience. Because this is what the idea is. We want to get mass participation. Again, like in Egypt, the only way we're going to change things is a mass movement. Follow that formula right here at the conference. Okay? Is that clear? Right. And por este micrófono, ustedes tienen que poner en canal 1, okay, para escuchar. You have to put on the receiver, you need to put it on channel 1. We're all on, we're number 1, channel 1. And we have Liliana Gomez and a number of other people will be doing the translation. We want to thank them for doing that. Okay, so our first speaker is Jeannette Gabriel. She is a resident historian with the Smithsonian, and she's also works with the HPA Union, working right here at the UNBNJ. And she will be talking about the history of public works, how it was won in the past. Our next speaker will be Eric Lerner, one of the original conveners of the New Jersey Immigrant and Worker Rights Coalition when he left. And he will be talking about what do we actually mean by jobs for all. Okay? And our third speaker will be Larry Adams. He's the former head of the Mail Handlers Union, Local 300, and currently the vice chair for External Affairs for the People's Organization for Progress, one of the sponsors of this forum. And he will be talking about how we can win today, jobs for all. Okay, so let's give a big round of applause for him.
I want to start by just making a few comments I wanted to talk about, and then we're going to have to dim the lights a little bit so you can see some of the images. I do a lot of work as a visual historian because I think that a lot of the images show a history that is not always in the books. And that's very much what I'm interested in. A lot of the images that we're going to see today are of a workers' movement that was predominantly led by African Americans, had huge leadership from all over the left, and was incredibly effective and powerful in the 1930s. And a lot of that history you cannot get in the official documents, and I've been spending years trying to dig out those source materials, but the images tell us a lot about who was really active in this movement. The purpose of this history is a forgotten sort of chapter of what happened in the 1930s. We have these images of the WPA workers as exhausted, meek, grateful, sort of loving Roosevelt for what he did for them, right? And yet the images that we're going to see today suggest a very different movement of what took place. That the WPA program only came about because of mass protests of people on a community-wide level, and then when we got the government jobs program, it was a continual struggle to maintain that program. Continual struggle all throughout the 1930s and into the 1940s, and finally a tremendous right-wing backlash against that movement. It was only able to crush it with the beginning of the HUAC hearings in the 1930s, the House on Un-American Activities Committee, a banning of all communists from the projects, a banning of all aliens, which was the term used for undocumented immigrants, which made up a huge number of the WPA workers. And all these sort of measures were put in place to crush the WPA, and what we're going to look at, which was the main organization inside the WPA, called the Workers' Alliance of America. So if you're surprised that you haven't heard this history before, don't be too surprised, right? We're learning all the time that very important histories are kept from us. There's a very exciting new book out about the largest slave revolt in the history of the United States, which took place in New Orleans and almost toppled the city of New Orleans. We've always been told that in the United States slavery was different, we really didn't have revolts here, and now we discover that in fact we did have revolts, we just haven't been told that history. So really what we're going to look at today is part and parcel of that. We have to, as historians and as activists, go out and find our own stories. Find out that what really happened is not being told to us, because it provides some powerful models for what we can do in the present. So I want to, maybe we can just hit the lights a little bit. I don't want to go too dark, but I do want you to be able to see it. So we're going to play with it.